Okay, I'm going to walk you through the whole process of creating the European mount. This is a buck that's finished. It's a deer that Andrew killed during the 2009 season in September during the youth season. And this is one that he shot during the 2009 season in October with his bow. So this one is not finished. But we're going to take you from the whole entire process from start to finish. The first step is you want to get the meat and the flesh off the skull as quickly as possible after the kill. Sometimes if it's really cold out and it freezes, it's not as big of a deal. But the longer it sits with the flesh on the skull, the more difficult it is to get it really clean, because it will tend to discolor the bone. So the quicker you can get it off, the better, and get it into the pot and get it boiling. My feeling on that is if you've got all the flesh off it, you only have to boil it for about 45 minutes or so, and then you can pull it out and you can scrape it and get it pretty clean. And you have to pick the brain out, which is always a fun exercise. You make a little hook out of a piece of wire and you run it back in. You run it back in through this cavity here, and you can pull all the brain, all the membranes inside the skull. You can pull out through there. So it's really a 2 or 3 step process, and it takes about, the first boiling is about 45 minutes. The second boiling is probably about half an hour, 20 minutes, something like that. And then the third boiling, if you need one, is going to be about 15 minutes or so. So you got a fair amount of boiling time and probably an hour and a half of cleaning on the skull to get all the little crevices and everything cleaned up good. And then after you've got all that done, just let it dry out. It doesn't take too long, a couple hours in the sun, it'll dry out. And then the next step is to treat it with the whitening agent. And I use the peroxide solution, 40% peroxide solution. You can get this from a hair salon. Some guys will they'll use some type of a bleach, or they'll boil it with borax, or I've even heard people say that they paint them white. I guess, to varying degrees of success, all of those will work. I've had the best luck with the peroxide solution, and like I said, they're readily available from any full-service hair salon. And all I do is just use a basting brush and just paint it on. And this is one that went through the boiling process but hasn't been whitened yet. You can see how stained the skull is. Basically, I just paint on a real thick layer of the peroxide solution over the whole skull, up and down, all the sides. Stay off the antlers, because it will also whiten the antlers themselves. So you just work around those. And you get it out in the sun and let it sit for a day in the sun, ideally hanging out where it's going to get full exposure to the sunlight. And then the next day, you paint another layer of the peroxide solution on the skull, and you let it sit for one more day in the sun, and after that it should be good to go. You should be able to then drill the hole in the back of the skull, or whatever you're going to use to mount it. I usually just drill a hole right here in the back, and then mount the head on the wall. So it's a simple process, really. Once you've done one, you'll learn real quick, and it's a great way to preserve your trophy, and it's an inexpensive way to get a really great decoration for your wall.